Welcome back to My Grandpa's Train. Today's restoration project is the result of my first poll on YouTube Community. I will be restoring to operation this pre-war American Flyer locomotive, the 565 Atlantic. Let's begin. As you see the engine right now, there's a few pieces missing, but those pieces have been in a box underneath the layout waiting for the time of restoration. So here's the front pilot and valve gear. The pre-war Flyer engines pick up positive power from the tender with this wire. Oh, no tender, you say? Well, I have that as well. Actually, 3 of them. Between these 3, I should be able to get one complete working one. 2 screws hold the shell to the frame, same as the post-war engines. The boiler cover comes off to access the headlight. It looks like someone has been inside this engine before, since there is a new headlight bulb installed. I was having a bit of trouble getting the shell off. It was caught on something. Then all of a sudden, it was free. So this is it. That's the engine all apart. This engine is really heavy, actually. There's 3 extra weights inside this. 1 around the headlight in the boiler front, 1 riveted in the boiler center, and a 3rd in the frame above the front axle. With the exception of the flare on the smokestack, this casting is, I believe, identical to the ones used for the post-war engines. Let's see once. If I apply power, what will happen? My guess is it will run, but not very well. It likes reverse, but not forward. Okay, time to continue disassembly. The motor armature looks very much like the post-war engines. I guess when you have a good design, there's no reason to change it much. In this case, it is almost simpler than the later engines. I only have to unsolder one single wire to the headlight. All the wiring is in good shape and will be kept as is. On to the next step of degreasing the engine. I have a minor concern about the condition of the small wheels on the pilot and trailing trucks. These were cast out of zinc metal, but these early castings had impurities which caused the metal to crack, split, and otherwise disintegrate. As you can see here, the wheels are starting to fall apart. For now, I am just going to leave those alone, but I might want to keep an eye out for replacement wheels. Now the degreasing is complete. I'm pretty happy with how clean it came out. The front axle is open, so it can be cleaned and lubricated easily. The drive gear had caked on grease between every tooth on the gear, and I manually removed all the grease before spraying liquid degreaser on it. That was a lot of work, but it turned out to work pretty good. I'm about ready to begin reassembly, and I noticed another telltale sign this engine has been worked on in the past. If you look carefully around the 565, you can see that it had been taped over and the engine has been painted. The original paint is closer to flat black, and the top coat is now satin or semi-gloss black. You can also see the low spots in the paint where the paint chips were covered. Now I have most of the motor put back together, but I ran into one tricky spot. The pre-war brush holders are a little tricky to reassemble if you have not done it before. Take a picture of what it looks like. I didn't do that, but I then realized that I have another motor just like this one, which I used for reference. I spent quite a while getting these brushes figured out. Once I had them installed in the proper orientation, well, here's what happened. Short circuit. Okay, this sent me on a wild goose chase wondering if my armature was bad. So I grabbed my Parts 300 locomotive, which has a known good motor and armature, and decided to swap them. The good news is the pre-war armature fits and works great inside the post-war motor. You also have to swap the bushing as the armature shafts are different sizes. I also tried to install the post-war armature in the pre-war engine and it did not fit. Here is the pre-war armature test in the 300 motor. So a long story short, the first problem I had with the pre-war motor was I put a thrust washer on the brush plate side of the motor. The way this is designed, it does not require one. It was actually shorting from the commutator to the shaft, which was grounded. That didn't work. The second problem I had was that one brush tube was pinched too tight, and it would not let the brush slide smoothly, and it prevented the brush from making proper contact with the commutator. Once I figured that out, I made an adjustment to the brush holder and then put it all back together. Now the brushes have proper contact with the commutator and now I can finally finish assembly and test it. One tricky part about this is that the internal wiring must fit underneath the boiler weight exactly or it will not fit. There is one more step to make this operate, and that is I need to fabricate a drawbar. This one, you can see, is gone. So I think I can make one easily with a piece of thick aluminum. Now the pilot, valve gear, and trailing trucks are added, and I also have finished the drawbar. That was a bit of work because the old metal needed to be drilled and tapped for the screws I was going to use. Of course, the metal will crumble when drilled, so I lined up everything, drilled it, then mixed up and applied JB weld to every spot that broke off. Once that cured, I re-drilled and tapped the broken side, and finally the drawbar is done. Now we can test this at the layout and see it run in who knows how many years. It's time for the weight comparison between the 565 and the 300 AC. Here's my 300 AC, 2 pounds, 3.7 ounces. Here's the pre-war, 2 pounds, 13.5 ounces. So not quite 10 ounces more, the pre-war weighs almost 3 pounds. After the first off-camera shakedown run, I retightened the pilot and valve gear bolts so they won't fall out now. I also hooked up the light bulb on this Mark's tin plate station. Wow, that was an adventure for sure. This is not the last time you will see the 565. I have another tender for it, which will be another video, and I'd like to find some rolling stock to match. But now we have come to the end of the video, so that means warm up your keyboard and leave me a nice comment down below. And on your way over, hit the like button too. Please subscribe and thanks for watching.